How's it going, everyone? This video is on how to convert between writing something in decimal form, percent form, and fraction form. So any number, right? Typically we see numbers written as a decimal, so like 3.14, and we'll just represent that with the letter X. Okay, writing something in decimal form. You could also write something in fraction form, like one number over another number, right? A divided by B, A over B. You could also write something in percent form, right? Like some number and then the percent sign. Here we have P%. So the same value can be represented in any of these three ways. And I'll show you how to convert between one and the other. So the first thing we'll do is we'll look at how to convert between something written in percent form and decimal form. That's the easiest thing to do. Okay, converting from percent form to decimal form. Well, actually, a lot of them are pretty easy. So to do that conversion, it just comes down to what the percent symbol means. Okay, percent is another way of writing over 100 or divided by 100. Okay, this is just three different ways of writing the exact same thing. So to convert something from percent form into decimal form, just divide it by 100. Okay, for example, 32%, that just means 32 divided by 100. You do that division, 32 divided by 100, you'll get 0.32. Done. You've converted from percent form to decimal form. Okay, let's say 231.5%. Doesn't matter. Do we have decimals? Does the number go over 100? It doesn't matter. The percent symbol just means divided by 100. So 231.5 divided by 100, that's going to be 2.315. That's it. 231.5%. In decimal form, that's 2.315. That's how you convert from percent to decimal. Just divide by 100. Okay, well then, how do we go the other way around? How do we convert from decimal to percent? Well, you do the opposite. You multiply by 100. Okay, let's say we have 0.56, and we want to convert that to percent form. Okay, so we want to say that equals something percent. Well, what does the percent symbol mean, right? It means something over 100, right? So 0.56 equals P over 100. What's P? Well, solve for P. Multiply both sides of the equation by 100. 0.56 times 100 equals P times 100. And we have that over 100 there. The hundreds cancel out. We have P equals 0.56 times 100, which is going to be 56. Okay, so this P% here, that is 56%. Okay, so that works for anything. Okay, X represented as something percent means X represented as something over 100. Okay, so multiply both sides by 100. 100 times X equals P. And that's it. So you want to convert from a decimal to a percent, just multiply by 100 and then add that percent symbol. And it all comes down from that fact that the percent symbol just means divide by 100. Okay, so P over 100 equals the decimal. Just multiply both sides by 100, you got your solution. Okay, so just as a recap, you want to go from percent to decimal. Take your percent value divided by 100. You want to go from decimal to percent. Take your decimal value, multiply it by 100, and throw the percent symbol on the end. Another way to think of it is if you're multiplying by 100 and then dividing by 100, well, that's just multiplying by 1. So of course the value stays the same. And that division by 100, you could write that as a percent symbol because that's what the percent symbol means. So that's that part of it. Okay. Now let's deal with the fraction. Okay. Let's say we want to convert from a fraction to a decimal. Well, that's also very easy because a fraction is just a form of division. A over B means A divided by B. Just do the division with a calculator or a long division and you'll get it in decimal form. So, for example, let's say we have 15 over 30. Well, that just means 15 divided by 30. What's 15 divided by 30? You'll get 0.5. Done. You did it in decimal form. Doesn't matter what numbers you're dealing with. A over B, you want it in decimal form, just do the division. A divided by B, whatever your answer is, that's X. Okay, so you want to convert from fractions to decimal, just do the division. A divided by B. Now, say you want to convert from decimal to fractions, right? Going the other way around. So here's how you do that. It depends on how many decimal places you have. So what you want to do, let's say we have 0.32. Okay, how can we get rid of all the decimal places by multiplying this by something? Well, there's 2 decimal places, so if we multiply by 100, right, a 1 and 2 zeros, that's going to move that decimal place over to the right by 2. So 0.32 times 100, but if we're going to say the result is going to be equal to what we're going to write here, we're also going to divide by 100, right? So we're multiplying by 1, right? 100 over 100 is equal to 1, right? We're multiplying by 100, then we're dividing by 100. What does that top become? 0.32 times 100, that's going to be 32. And then we still have over 100 on top. Done. We've converted it to a fraction. And now we can reduce that fraction if we want, right? We can divide the top by 4, right? And that gives us 8. And then we can divide the bottom by 4 as well, and that gives us 25, right? So 32 over 100, we can reduce it to 8 over 25. Now, let's say we have 3 decimal places. Let's say it's 1.721. Okay, what do we have to multiply this by in order to have no decimal places? Well, we have to multiply it by 1,000, right? We have to go 1, 2, 3, right? Because we have 3 decimal places. So that's going to be 1.721 times 1,000. And of course we have to divide by 1,000. If it's going to be equal, right? Multiply by something, divide by the same thing, so the actual value doesn't change. And then on top we have 1,721 divided by 1,000. And then we can check, is it possible to reduce that or not? And if it's possible to reduce it, you can reduce it if you want. You can turn it into a mixed fraction if you want. That's up to you. But you do now have it in fraction form. Okay, let's do one more. 3.1. Well, what do we have to multiply that by to get rid of the decimal places? Well, we multiply it by 10. So, times 10 divided by 10, right? Just multiplying and dividing by the same thing, so the value stays the same. We get 31 over 10. And then you can go with a mixed fraction or reduce things if it's possible, and so on. So, how can we write that in a general form? Well, we're taking our value x, And we're multiplying and dividing by the same thing, and that same thing is going to be a certain power of 10, right? It's going to be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. It's going to be 10 to the power of however number decimal places we have. We just multiply that by that and divide by that. And then the result is a fraction. Okay? So whatever number it is, just multiply and divide by 10 to the power of however many decimal places you have, or a number which is 1 and then a number of zeros, which is the same as the number of decimal places you have, right? So if you have one decimal place, multiply by 10 and put that over 10. If you have 3 decimal places like here, you multiply by 1,000, put it over 1,000. If you have 2 decimal places like here, you multiply by 100, put it over 100. That is how you'll convert between, well, from a decimal to a fraction, right? So now we have this path here, right? We just take our number, we multiply by a number which is 1 followed by a number of zeros, which is the same number of decimal places that we have, and we put that as the denominator as well. And that gives us a fraction, and then you can reduce it or put it as a mixed fraction if you want, up to you. So now all the conversion is possible, right? The only thing we didn't discuss is how to convert from percent to fraction, but, well, you could just convert to a decimal and then go from decimal to fraction. Or how to go from fraction to percent, well, you could just convert it to a decimal, from fraction to decimal, and then go from fraction to percent. Okay, so you can now convert from any one of these three to any one of these three. But there is one shortcut, which we actually talked about indirectly. You can go from percent directly to fraction in a very simple way. And it's actually written on the screen right here, because percent means over 100. So whatever percent you have, let's say 32%, that's just 32 over 100. Done. You've converted it to a fraction, and then you can reduce it if you want. Okay, 157.5%, well, that's just 157.5 over 100. Done. You have it as a fraction. You don't like decimal places in the numerator? Okay. Well, you have one decimal place, so multiply both top and bottom by 10. There you go. Now you don't have decimal places in the numerator. You have it as a fraction. Let's say 0.52%. Okay? 0.52 over 100. You don't like decimal places in the numerator? Same thing. Well, you're going to have to multiply by 100 because there's 2 decimal places here. So multiply top and bottom by 100. 52 over 10,000. And then you can reduce that if you want. So that's a shortcut to go from percent to fraction directly. So just as a recap, if you want to go from percent to decimal, just divide by 100. You want to go from decimal to percent, just multiply by 100 and add that percent sign on the end. You want to go from fraction to decimal, just divide the top by the bottom. You want to go from decimal to fraction, you're going to multiply by 10 to the power of however many decimal places you have. You have one decimal place, you multiply by 10, and then put it over 10 as a denominator. You have 2 decimal places, multiply by 100, put it over 100 in the denominator. You have 4 decimal places, multiply by 10,000, right? That's a 1 and 4 zeros. Multiply by 10,000 and divide, put it over 10,000 in the denominator. And that's it. That's all the tools you need, but you do have that one more shortcut. You want to go from percent directly to fractions, this shortcut here, right? Well, just divide by 100, right? That's what percent means. So it's just that percent number over 100, and you have it in fraction form. And then you can multiply top and bottom by some power of 10 if you don't want decimal places in the numerator and you end up in that situation. So I hope that helps. You can now convert any number between percent, fractions, and decimal form. And I'll see you next time.